Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public Safety Committee work session of Monday, November 17th, 2025. Today we have one topic on the agenda, which is a briefing from the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation about the Pre-Release Center. As we begin, I would like to thank Ms. Farag for preparing the staff report for the topic today and for once again and always assembling most informative packets for us. Unless the other committee member will be joined shortly by Councilmember Mink as well. Has any opening comments? I'm going to ask the panel to please introduce themselves and ask if they have any opening comments, and then we'll ask Ms. Farag to please lead us through the discussions. Would you like to start off and tell us who you are, please? Yeah, you need to touch the button.
Good morning. I'm Ben Stevenson. I'm the Director of the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Happy to be here. And this is the team that does the work, and I'm proud to have him here to support or answer any technical questions we may get into today. But glad to be here.
Can we start with you, please?
Tyrone Alexander, Deputy Chief of Programs and Services at the Pre-Release Center.
Elian Dunn Johnson, Food Service Manager for Montgomery County Correctional Facility.
Good morning, Willie Morales, Division Chief of Management Services.
Good morning, Ivan Downing, Division Chief for Community Corrections.
Good morning, Janet Quackle, Section Chief, Information Technology and Data Analytics.
Did you have any other opening comments? If not, we're good.
I just did want to also acknowledge our reentry manager is behind us as well. Gina Thompson, as well as our Deputy Chief of Security and Facility of the Pre-Release Center, Jasper Azibo, is all, and Jennifer Castillon, who is our Senior Executive Administrative Assistant.
She literally has your back.
She does.
You didn't know she was there. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And with that, we're going to ask Ms. Farag to please lead us through.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to do a very brief intro, and then Mr. Stevenson has a PowerPoint that'll take you through different aspects of the Pre-Release Center. This is a briefing on the Pre-Release Center, which is a 144-bed residential facility, and it provides community-based reentry services for qualifying incarcerated individuals. It was opened in 1972, and it served approximately 20,000 men and women since that time. However, as you know, during 2020, the department had to cease PRC operations due to the pandemic, and the facility did not reopen again until April 2023. During that time, the region also experienced an increase in crime, particularly violent crime, as well as acute increases in opioid misuse and overdoses. That has resulted, since PRC opened up, a population of incarcerated individuals that's much more complex and acute. So that presents its own challenges as well. As of November 12th, when I wrote the staff report, there were 66 residents in the PRC. I am going to turn it over to Mr. Stevenson to walk you through the different aspects of the Pre-Release Center operations and their future forward plans.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stevenson, please.
First, I wanted to
You need to touch the button. There you go.
I had to get this down. I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of the Pre-Release Center because Montgomery County has always put its values in reentry many, many years, and I'm talking before I was born. But in 1968, a conversation about...
Are you saying that you weren't born in 1968?
I wasn't.
That is really tough on me.
I was born in 1970.
Okay. Wow.
I thought I was older. See?
Yeah, this is not going to go well, Ben. This is not going to go well. Anyhow, go ahead, please.
But in the late 60s, Montgomery County was looking to look at their jail to say we need more reentry, and we need to treat things not just as jail custody, but also how do we best prepare people. And so when I think of 1968, you're talking, it was created by a work group, and the county council created this work group with Ida Mae Garrett, Bill Greenhall, Leighton Dudley, Warden John Ford, and Avis Burley, which is a council liaison. But as I was doing a little bit of my research, because I've never looked back, these were legislative gurus back in the day. I looked at Ida Mae Garrett, who founded the Women League of Voters. When I looked at Bill Greenhall, who actually created the modern-day public defender system in which we have in Maryland. And so those were two notable people that said we need to do more. And so hence they came up with a committee And at the time, the jail was run by DGS, as well as the dog pound.
Wow.
And they appointed the warden back in the day. So in 1972, our department ended up becoming the Department of not only correction, but adding that rehabilitation part. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that we were way ahead before the 2000s when everyone talked about reentry and that concept. We were doing very intensive case management, wraparound transitional services for those reentering society. And another point that's really important to know is we had an insight on disproportionate sentencing, which has plagued the criminal justice system for such a long time, that we saw that as a need and saw that as a need to make sure people had the appropriate resources prior to being released. And so I just wanted to note that, because when we talk of the history, and a gentleman named Kent Mason was the founder, who came from the state system and had a very interesting perspective with a mental health background to look at our center as almost a fact team, a forensic, acute counseling team type of environment. And so hence, many years later, I guess we're on 54, 55 years of doing the work at the pre-release center. And again, as Ms. Farrak shared, over 20,000 people have come through. And so I wanted to acknowledge that. And we started off, it was 16 people when it started. And it went all the way up to about 171. And today it's 144 beds, because in 2014 we moved pretrial services and our diversion programs into the same center. That way we weren't paying $1 million in rent every year to a separate agency. We knew we could do it inside. And so I wanted to note that as we look at the pre-release center. And when it was built and the architectural plans for this center were done, it was to be an open campus. It was not to look very jail-like, on purpose, by design. They weren't inmates, they were residents. We weren't officers, they were resident supervisors. And so that hands-up approach was to parallel what reentry should really look like without, as close as you can make it to being out in the community as you could do reentry. And so that's hence the design, and you can see the pictures, and you all have been there many times. It's an open campus feel. But, we take at-risk folks. We take those that need the reentry the most, and evidence-based practices, those that need it the most, is you want to go for risk. You want to go for those that are going to come back in the community. Another portion of or thing about the pre-release center is years ago on Neville Street, not much was happening. It was auto parts repair, warehouse. You had WSSC, which is still next door. Today, North Bethesda is no longer Rockville. It's a different community. We're different members.
North Bethesda moved, Rockville didn't. But anyhow,
Yes,
go ahead.
correct.
Yeah.
And so if you are going to look at a pre-release center, you want to make sure it's going to be located to where people can get to the jobs, where you can make sure that it's close enough to where, and we have a lot of our residents that work many areas outside of the D.C. and Northern Virginia area. And so when you deal with corrections in a pre-release setting, we talk about care, custody, and control. Our big change in community correction is that community piece. We are interfacing with family members. We bring family into our program. We believe that the motto is you need to work with the individuals that know you the best as we transition you out and bring them in part of the decision making in the family process and the reunification. So that's very, very huge to us. We have our staff. Our staff are all college educated with a background in criminal justice, human services. We're all taught in understanding mental health, substance abuse, how to de-escalate behavior, and try to problem solve and help people locate jobs and technical assistance. So when most corrections is worried about enforcing the rules and saying you got to lock in at this time, you got to be here this time, this program's about engaging you differently, having a conversation, having a relationship that's appropriate with our residents to help them deal with really serious issues as they're trying to reenter. Our acceptance rate, our eligibility, and our screening process is you have to be within 1 year, and this is statutorily. You have to be within 1 year of your sentence. You have to volunteer, and you have to want to be there. If you don't want to be there, it can have disastrous consequences. We want the people that want to try, want to do different. You also, our program motto is freedom through responsibility. And so we have to have an acceptance. If you did nothing wrong, this might not be the program for you, and it might not be good for us to manage you in the community if you accept no responsibility. So our program believes having skin in the game. Not everything's free, but we do have some aspects of how we look at our program to build self-efficacy, being that you can stand up on your own better upon release. And so we have to make sure that people are able to legally work. There's no serious pending charges that are in other counties, jurisdictions. You can't have escaped from another facility before where you might have walked off on a program. There also has to be judicial consent. We are not the only people that accept a person in the pre-release center. The judge has a 50% play into that decision as well. And so a judge has to agree or we have to agree, but no one overrides each other. And so we put in recommendations of who we believe may benefit. And so, and you must, the biggest one is must be managed safely in the community, and that takes a lot of decision points in looking at cases. And so when we look at our reentry services, we provide community-based alternatives, our job readiness, our treatment and educational services, and our family involvement in life skills or cognitive behavioral therapy. Those are the big keys of what we do. Those are our core programs, if you will. And so our goals is to reduce our detention population. And again, our count is 66 today. It's less than what it was pre-COVID. And I'll talk a little bit about those factors. But we are actively in a therapeutic environment preparing people for reentry and also equipping people with skills and also trying to have them save cash and be prepared so when they get released, they're much more stable and they'll come back into our system. And that's our ultimate goal. Our Sweet Release Bakery job training program that I mentioned, and I just wanted to share, is we reopened this after many years of being closed due to budget cuts back in the early 2000s. It's a workforce development program where we provide a 3-month job training program for our offenders. And we are looking to, in the next year, to expand this or align our services at the pre-release center, so we're running cohorts at both facilities. I believe as a director is our services need to match and parallel at all points, because reentry is not just done at the pre-release center. We do heavy reentry at our jail, and I want to note, while the Deputy Warden of Programs and Services, Kendra Yoakum, is not here today, she does incredible reentry for those that aren't eligible for this program. So it's not just 66 out of our population of 1,000 that get treatment services. We're doing treatment from our jail. But again, here you can see some pictures. We've been featured in a couple different stories this past year about our bakery program. Here you can see Councilmember Lukey came to visit us this summer and volunteered to teach a class. And I cannot think of the pie that we created, but it was one of the best peach pies I've had in a while. But
this is not budget time, Ben.
I know, right? I knew that was coming too, but I did want to just put that plug.
Wait, was it a class on baking or a class on civics? Because I know she could do both.
We can do both at the same time in the future. We can bake and talk civics.
Yeah, it was definitely a very, very, very good to see, and it wasn't meant to be a photo stunt. We just wanted to kind of be able to see perspective. So I always think, and I invite anyone that wants to come in and be part of our program to see the good work that we do at the jail as well as the pre-release center. So a couple things. I wanted to go on some summary statistics to look at what was before COVID, what is now, and what our challenges and how we're trying to face them. As you can see, our numbers are half of which is what they were to pre-COVID. And some of the variables to why our population is down, it's multi-pronged. The circuit court is still not back to normal. And I know that sounds very odd being many years after COVID. There's a backup in felonious cases. And one of the key elements of eligibility of our program is making sure that you are sentenced. And most of our population is not getting sentenced enough and quickly enough. And so that is part of why that average daily population has gone down. We're hoping that it will ramp back up, and we're going to explore some new opportunities to try to see if we're doing our due diligence or have our eligibility requirements became so rigid of many years past, do they need to be reevaluated? And those are some things that we as a team will be looking at as we come into January. But as you can see here, we have about an 80% success rate. And that's very, very good because you don't get perfection working with offenders that are criminally justice involved. But 80% of those that come through successfully complete our program. And many don't. Another 20% may not. And there can be a variety of factors for that. It could be another warrant came up or detainer from another jurisdiction. It could be that you mentally decompensate and are no longer able to be managed safely in the community, and it could be also disciplinary. Sometimes we have people that are that use, and relapse can be part of recovery, but we do have people that use, and we will look at possibly bringing them back after we stabilize them and provide them more treatment. And so this slide, which you have the hard copies too, just gives the overall reasons. I will say half the population, why it's gone down, so did half of our escapes. And our escapes are not your traditional escapes where they sawed through the bars and jumped out. They're more so as someone used and doesn't want to come back to deal with the consequences. And we have about a 48-hour recapture rate on average from our mini walk-offs. We used to call them walk-offs back in the day. Discharges, this gives you the percentages of residents discharged, and it looks at pre-COVID and post-COVID. And again, we're at that about 80% rate of discharge, which has been a steady performance metric that we've seen at pre-release, pre-COVID and post-COVID. In our current population, this gives you our demographics. Again, as any criminal justice population we have an overrepresentation of those that are minorities within our system. We work very hard to make sure that our services match our clients, and they match a variety of clients. It isn't just of one diversity. It also could be we have male and females as well, and so meeting those needs is very important for our corrections. Employment information. You look at prior to COVID, 2018 to 2020, we had about a 74% employed at the time of release, and now we're at about a 58%. And so getting people employed is our ultimate goal, but sometimes there's shorter sentences where we can't get someone engaged quick enough. But our doors remain open. Our staff talk to people post-release. We don't do a lot of studies post-release, but we do want to make sure that we get people in a right job placement prior to release. And again, our work release program is an expectation that you get employment within 5 weeks. And think of the difficulty of getting work being an offender. We have every type of offender. It isn't just a low-level creaming of the easiest cases and corrections. We're dealing with felonious cases that could include up to murder, which is not very typical and very rare, and usually after a very long sentence, but it also could be assaultive behavior, domestic violence behavior, sex offenses that occur. And again, the pre-release center engages that treatment based on an individualized treatment plan to that individual. And so I do want to mention, when we have higher level charges, we match that with clinical-based treatment, including our sex offenders. Every sex offender that comes through Montgomery County pre-release is being treated as well. They're just not there to be housed. It's more than that. So we have work release coordinators. What makes our program a little bit unique is we don't have just case management. We have work release, which builds those relationships with the employers. Our practice in years past is to make sure the employers are aware of the type of charges they have. We allow them to do that. We prep them and interviewing them to make sure that they understand how to explain charges. That's very difficult. Imagine having a very difficult charge and trying to explain to an employer, I'm the best person for you to hire. And we do a really good job at getting very difficult clients into work. And again, our work release coordinators and our employee contracts are very, very important. We have employers that have been with us for over 40 years, 50 years, believe it or not. And so they know where we are, and we guarantee them someone that's going to be drug-free. They're going to be managed. You're going to have a point of contact, and they know that there's a problem. We're going to work with them to address it in a hopefully a positive way. Most recently, we completed our second job fair since reopening post-COVID. A couple pictures, impactful job fairs put us on the map. It lets employers know we're open. It also lets community members, and also we learn new job contacts that want to work with our population. Performance data, these are our big kind of headlines, and this is going from July 1st of 24 to 25. We have an 80% program completion, about a 58 to 75% released on private employment, and 98% are estimated to be released with a housing plan. Of course, housing challenges exist. When we say 98% are released with a housing plan, there's a lot that will report, and we will verify they have housing, but it might just be with a cousin or brother or a couch. and it may not be a really hard number. And so housing's still an issue for our criminally justice involved residents that are moving out in the community. Accountability, as far as when you're with us, we put money towards, of course, we earn taxes from the residents that work, income taxes. We do fees. Our fees are based on a very low amount. It's $460 max per month, and that's on your gross, not your net. We're not trying to charge fees, but we want to make sure that you have some skin in the game or some self-efficacy where you pay towards that. And we also ask them to save about 10% in their savings. If you have child support, we have a lot of our residents will put out money to their family and community members while they're working. And we also have an obligation statutorily to complete restitution. If there is a victim, it has to come. And it's a proportional amount. So we don't tax them completely, but there's a proportion in which they must comply. Our programs, this is an overview of our programs. Our core programs are, I'd probably talk about our connections with Montgomery College, our connections with our cognitive behavioral therapy. Our job readiness program is to none one of the best programs that we do in preparing people how to do interviewing skills, how to dress, how to get more money out of that interview process. And so we're really, really proud of being able to do that very, very well. But there's a number of programs that we do, but really what we're trying to do is we do orientation within that first 2 weeks and try to get you back to getting employment and back to getting money for your family and support. In our accountability, besides program fees that are required in restitution, we make sure that we have victim rights included in that restitution. Every pass of every individual on our pre-release center is verified in advance prior to going out. We know where it's going to be, what the address is, when you're to come back. Accountability is what makes it safe for us. Some pre-release centers across the country will let you out for 8 hours. Go find a job, come back at 4. If you're not here by 4, we'll do an escape. This is a different type of program, and there's not a lot that really compare. Ivan and I are both auditors with the American Correctional Association. We compare our notes when we go out to other institutions and audit their performance, and to none, our program is a national model, has been a national model by the National Institute of Justice. And I know it was 1981, but we are the forefront of doing reentry the right way. Now, however, I would love more numbers for this, because that's, we have a unit that's not even open right now. And that really hurts to know we have bed space. We have looked at several different options to use it differently, but I'm kind of thinking we need to look a little deep, because the state prison system is not giving us back local reentry program participants. They've given us 2. It took me 18 months just to get them to sign the agreement. And so I've told them, I'll pick them up, I'll come to you, I'll do whatever you want to get them here. It's just not happening. And additionally, with the First Step Act to the federal government, back, I want to say it might be 19, I can't think offhand, but the First Step Act was where the Federal Government Bureau of Prisons would send any of those within 2 years of release on home confinement or a lesser level of custody. We no longer, the Bureau of Prisons does not have the right type of person for our program anymore. When they did that act, it almost, the lower level fruit, if you will, or lesser level type of offenders are just not there. Unless you want to take someone behind the wall that could have very acute, we may not know where they are in a classification sense. And so we do connect with them every 6 months. Hey, what is the status? Is there any opportunities here that do exist? And right now we're keep checking with them. They're not ready to send us anybody. Another note on population dropping, having a unit. You got it when the pre-release center was created in '72. There was no mental health court, drug court, DUI court, sober halfway houses like we have now. And there's a lot more folks that are in the game of reentry, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just I believe that those are areas where we're not the only shop in town and maybe shouldn't be. And so I think some of those numbers are declining because of good problems. And then I have to be careful when we look at the pre-release center that I'm not shopping to get people more criminally justice involved. And that's one that really, I don't want to look for business, so to speak. If the business isn't there, you don't want it. Now, we have examined, could we make it a crisis destabilization unit? Could we take those 52 beds on Unit 4 to staff that right now? Might not be the best way because you need a lot of staffing to do a wraparound unit that's mental health and crisis oriented. I counted 24 full-time positions. okay? And that would be for a small group. And I don't know, and having that in a population that already has juveniles in our pretrial side, already has convicted sentence there, and also has a homeless shelter across the street. I really do worry that while that might be a place that it could be done, I don't know if it's the best place to be done. And so those are things that we're going to look at in January to see how we could look at retooling and utilizing that space. But there isn't a lack of trying. It's just we're kind of waiting for this COVID thing to go away, and it's not. And could it? I'm not really sure. So I just wanted to kind of make note on kind of where those numbers are. Being innovative, I always think any program, you can't just, hey, we keep on keeping on. That's not where we are. We're trying to do some different things. We're trying to see what else is out there. And so some of them that I just wanted to highlight is we have a Miss Vanucci, who's a classical violinist, that not only has volunteered with our program, but also has been working with us to see how can it combine, not to see, she's doing it. She's working with our cognitive behavioral thinking for a change group to bring in music and how it affects emotion and be able to teach our residents how that works and combines. And she did a presentation for our advisory board meeting this past Thursday, which was beautiful. Modern music, classical music, working with our offenders to look at how emotions can be regulated and also managed. And so she is now training about 1 to 3 students with us, which is pretty positive. Different. If you ever thought we were going to teach violin at the Pre-Release Center when I started 30 years ago, I would probably tell you, wow, okay. So I'm very happy about that. Another one, we're looking at a Second Chance Canine program. We're seeking a partnership with Montgomery County's Animal Services and Adoption Center that could pair shelter dogs with PRC residents. It's something that can be done on a very small level. It's in its infancy of development. Deputy Chief of Program Services, Tyrone Alexander, has been working with them right now. And this is not new to corrections as well. We do therapy dogs at our main jail. In the state prisons, they've done Paws for Prisoners for many years. And there is some good research, and there's some good calming attributes that come with animals and teaching empathy as well as care and responsibility. Also, Miss Dawn Johnson, who's here with us today, she is in charge of bakery program, our food in general. She has been working on a department on a grant, a federal grant, which we just got notified is not going to go through, but we are seeking to do some green jobs training, which can expand workforce development and skills and a recycling program. And so if you go to the Pre-Release Center today, we have an active garden, we're doing a greenhouse, we're teaching some horticulture, and we want to professionalize this and organize it a little better, and we'd like to come up with a composting certification as well as a master gardening certificate and horticulture certificate. And again, when you're dealing with your average length of stay, about 90 days in pre-release, is it's like trying to change the last 20 years in 90 days. It's very difficult, but certifications is kind of where correction needs to be. No one's going to get a bachelor's degree unless they already started on it. No one's going to be able to get a roofing certification at the college with 8 weeks. So anyways, we have to look at being more nimble in how we're able to do some programs that can give some short term. Because certifications mean a lot, and our residents are very proud when they get something. They like their picture being done. They want to show their family they're doing the right thing, and so this is one that we're working on. In general, this is our contact information. I know you all know how to get in touch with us very quickly. But I'm very proud of the staff that are here today. I cannot tell you, we've been doing this a long time. Many of us in this room are experts in their game of reentry and understanding community corrections. And so I wanted you to see their faces and know that they do really, really good work on a daily basis. And so that's kind of, I wasn't looking at my clock, but I know I talked a lot.
You did just fine.
I hope that wasn't.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you all for everything that you all do. I visit the Pre-Release Center, I guess, 4 times a year, though I missed the last. I couldn't be in 2 places at once, so I had to miss that one. But it is really gratifying what you do. And you were talking about Kent Mason. Mm-hmm. I remember at one of the anniversaries, and I was there. He actually spoke. Yes. I don't remember how long. It's a couple of years ago.
The reopening.
And I guess it was the reopening. And John McCarthy spoke. Mm-hmm. And it really is. First off, it's a sense of pride for Montgomery County. Not that we want people to have gotten themselves in a situation that they'd be in a pre-release center. But if you're going to be there, then and have that type of situation, You want the best that you could possibly have for that person. I mean, it's been told to me many times, most people who have been incarcerated will come back. And they're going to come back to us. They were from Montgomery County, and they are going to come back to Montgomery County. And you want them to have a better situation so that, I remember at one of the GED graduations at the jail, that the keynote speaker said, look, you've gotten your education today. We don't want you back. No U-turns. Yeah. And it's stuck in my mind. I mean, you're sorry that someone went through this. They've got to get themselves straightened out. It's hard to believe they got themselves in this situation in some cases, but we have to. But the other thing is, and I did this, you ask AI how much it costs to incarcerate somebody, and they'll say $65,000 a year is what that figure. And I don't know whether that's correct. I don't know if that's incorrect. But and I always like to tell people that's the first cost. That's not the cost of that person is not being productive. That's not the cost to their family. That's not you can go down a list for minutes on what that means and what it doesn't mean. And programs like the Sweet Release program, programs like, and you mentioned the green, that you didn't get the grant for, the green jobs deal. Not that we're going to have all the money in the world for this next budget. I want to be very, very clear on that. But I do believe it's necessary for you to remind us, if we could find something, what we could do to help that we don't have to spend $65,000 or whatever that right number is. It's an investment in that person. It's an investment in the community. And it's really an investment for all of us. The other thing is you mentioned that the state is not sending people back through the. Where are they sending them?
Most of us as directors in the state, they're just not sending, and I'm not sure if it's a staffing capacity. I mean, it took a while to get the MOU signed, but I can tell my colleague across the other side of the Beltway says, I'll come get them. Just give them to us. So right now, I'm not sure what the actual reason behind that is.
Because when you go to the, and Ben, you know this more than I do, and everybody else here, but you go and you hear the stories of the people that, the residents of the center. And I mean, somebody's been gone for a long time. They've lost everything. Their families have no longer living. I mean, if they didn't have the pre-release center, they would have been homeless in some cases. And it's, if we're not helping that person once they're out, once they've served their time, then we're only saying you're going to end up back because they're going to be desperate. I mean, it just doesn't make good. It's not just from your heart; it's from your head on this one. It just doesn't make any sense. So please do that. And if it would help, and I could ask my colleagues that. But if it would help, I would be happy to send a letter to the state or to whoever and say, look, if someone is from Montgomery County, they've been sentenced from Montgomery County, and they're coming back to Montgomery County, we would like to get them in the best possible situation so that Montgomery County is safe and that they're safe. So if that works for both of you, and Ms. Frog, if you could come up with some wordsmithing on that, please. And with that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to turn to, now I always say that I do things in alphabetical order. I do. And then Kristen Mink said that she's going to start changing her name to be A. Mink. That's what she's going to. So, that's right, Kristen.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
That's an idea, too. I guess I could skip.
So anyhow, today we're going to turn to Kristen. Thanks.
Maybe I don't need to change my name. It's very exciting.
There you go. Not yet. Don't
Don't
be too jumping here.
Well, first I'll say that this is very exciting. We always enjoy hearing about these programs and the success stories, and I really appreciate that. You've talked about the areas where we can see growth or where we can, strategies for returning to some of those previous levels. It sounds like you're looking at both of those. And so, it's great to come in front of us and tell us the success stories, but we also want to hear where are we going, and think about how we could potentially help with that. So I think definitely the letter, that sounds great. I'm also wondering, is there a way to follow up with some of the program? Now, this is hard, and I know that you said that you don't typically have data from folks after they're out of the system, which makes sense. They're doing their thing. But I wonder, is there a way to follow up with any of the program graduates to get their feedback? Maybe if they're still with the same employers, potentially, maybe the quantity of people that we would be able to stay in touch with wouldn't be huge or even necessarily representative, because it might be self-selected of folks who stay in touch, but it still might be something just to hear about, if they have ideas for how programs could be improved, or telling us, particular parts that worked particularly well, even if it's just kind of some qualitative feedback that might be helpful, and also might be helpful for other employers potentially.
Yes, currently we do an exit survey, which we calculate those results, and we're able to look at it from performance, program, feedback. We don't, once released is really where our roles stop. Our Welcome Home program does look at old mentees that are out in the community that have been gone, and so we've now restarted with a new manager that is going to be doing some collection of that data to see what's going on in the end. We also have a recidivism study that I didn't speak about. It's a cooperative effort with the Governor's Crime Prevention Group, and so they're going to do a 10-year longitudinal study.
Right.
And we're able to do that at grant cost, their cost, not ours. And
Love
so
that.
we want to be able to see what are some of those trends pre-COVID, and so we're able to go back 10 years. And so Janet Corco has been actively working with the state right now to start that. So we're finishing our MOU and should have that next month. But yes, I do believe that data, to your point, Councilmember Mick, is we need to see what is going on in the field after release.
Right.
Not, hey, good to see you again, or we don't want to see you again, but you're here. But what are you doing? What were those breakdowns? What are the things that we're seeing that are barriers in the community that we can provide you? So I might be able to give you some additional reports.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I mean, of course, the real question that all of us have is a few years out, where are we, right? If everything's working great, but then it falls apart, a year after, and maybe that's an indicator that we need to be thinking about, say, on the HHS side, how do we pick things up from there, or on the workforce support side, that could give us some good indicators of additional efforts that we might need to make in terms of a handoff from there. But that's excellent to hear that you've got that piece moving. Is there feedback? Are there surveys from the employers or from potential employers who have declined to participate?
We have nothing official with employers, but on a daily basis, our work release coordinators are hands-on with the employers. They talk with them once a week. They check in. They do job visits. They go see the clients. Undiscoverable, we go and kind of, hey, we're here, because we don't want to stigmatize or interrupt the job. But yes, we do have active content, but nothing in an official report for you. But
that might be, well, number one, of course, we don't want to put any additional burden on the employers. We're grateful for their partnership. At the same time, if there's a simple survey occasionally that could be done, that could potentially provide some feedback that could be very helpful, maybe for recruiting additional employers. To say that that this has been a helpful, beneficial program, or if there's easy ways that, if they're all reporting that some particular type of feedback is difficult, then maybe there's a way for us to streamline that, or something like that. Then that might be helpful. And then the other piece that I was really excited about was the potential partnership with Animal Services, because they were just in front of us talking about how shorthanded they are. And we've certainly seen, and as you alluded to, the benefits of the therapeutic benefits of working with animals. So could you say more about that exploration of partnership?
It is, I would probably have to defer. Deputy Chief of Program Services, Tyrone Alexander, do you want to talk about where we are?
Ms. Carolyn Harefield approached me at a meeting. Actually, me and Ms. Dunn Johnson was at where we were talking about our attempts to get a grant for the Green Jobs program. And we started talking, and I told her, it's been my goal to bring a job training program to the pre-release center. And she said, I think we can help each other. And she told me about the trouble they were having with staffing, and how it would be a great opportunity for our residents to not only learn compassion and empathy skills, but to learn a job skill as well. And so we talked briefly, and then I met with her and her team. And we kind of hashed out what it would look like. How would this program work? What would our residents do at the shelter? Is there an opportunity for, at some point in time in the future, for us to actually bring animals to the pre-release center where the residents could watch and train? And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're still talking about it. We're still planning it. I have recruited one of our employers, Dogtopia, who's on board and actually want to join in on the planning progress because she's interested in how Animal Services does their training, and they're interested in how she trains her employees. So we think we got the makings of a great relationship that's not only going to benefit the residents of the pre-release center by giving them job training skills, but also help teach them empathy and care for someone other than themselves, as well as helping out Animal Services, because now they will have a steady stream of staff to help maintain the facilities, train the animals that come in. And also, one of the things that we really looked at was that this would exist both at the pre-release center and outside, because if somebody got released, as Ben mentioned, our length of stay is very short, and to get somebody trained in that period of time will be hard. But now if a resident starts at the pre-release center and get released, they can continue with Animal Services on the outside.
That is fantastic. And there we have a live example of how Dr. Harefield truly is getting creative. And she, just like she said, she's doing everything that she can think of. And that's wonderful. So thank you both for the leadership there. And please do keep us posted so we can come visit when there's an opportunity there. That's wonderful. And then the last question I had was on the violinist who's volunteering. If you could say a little bit about how that came to be, and if there might be others who might be interested in volunteering in such a capacity, what they should do and what that might look like.
Katerina actually called me out of the blue. She found out about the pre-release center online, and when she was in Italy, she had worked at a prison in Italy. She had a brief experience with it. She loved it. She always felt she wanted to give back. And she called me up and she said she would be really interested in coming to the pre-release center and duplicating what she did in Italy. So as we talked about it, I said, that kind of matches what we do with our cognitive behavioral therapy class, but I'm not sure if it's going to work for the residents at the pre-release center. So I asked if she would be willing to come in and play a concert during our dinner hour at the pre-release center, and I wanted to gauge how our residents would respond to it. She came in, she set up, and a lot of the residents, of course, was looking at us like, what's going on here? So she started playing, and the residents absolutely loved it. They really got into it. They were trying to figure out, she played a mix of classical and some pop songs, and of course, they were trying to figure out what song she was playing, what was going on. She actually started playing Viva La Vida by Coldplay, and I looked across the cafeteria, and there was an 18-year-old resident who was sitting there eating and bobbing his head, and when he saw me looking, he stopped and then smiled and went right back into it.
That's amazing. Yeah.
She even, at one point in time, she was playing a song, and everybody was trying to figure out what the song was, especially the men, because everybody was like, I know this song, and a whole bunch of movies came out that they thought it was in. And I happened to look the song up online, and it was actually De Beers jewelry commercial that plays during the NFL.
Oh,
That's what
Makes sense.
So
oh
me and my team, Ms. Thompson, we got together and we figured out ways that how can we incorporate this. And one of the things everybody said was music is universal. Mm-hmm. Everybody listens to music. Sometimes we listen to music on our way home to decompress from the day. Sometimes we listen to music on our way in to get us ready for the day. We teach residents positive affirmations when they have substance abuse. It could be a poem, it could be a saying, which is nothing more than music, words put to music. And so we thought, why not use this, especially with our younger residents, which our younger population, has increased. Why not use this to help teach them how to recognize emotions? Because we can find a song that makes us happy. We can find a song that makes us sad. And to hear it live brings a different component to it that really gets to people. And we put it at the very front of our cognitive behavioral therapy class, and it really helped the residents start to look at and recognize their emotions. Ms. Katerina asked
Yes.
if she could teach residents to play. And we said, sure, why not? So we got a couple of violins. There were several that were donated to the pre-release center by other volunteers. And since she has started, she has always had at least 1 or 2 residents that have been learning to play.
That's amazing. And so she's working within the general population then?
She comes in once a week on Tuesdays to be part of our cognitive behavioral therapy class, and then after the class, she'll meet with her students and she'll train them on how to play the violin.
Well, that is fantastic. And I will say, as a former music major myself, I already have some people in mind who I think might be interested in reaching out to see what might be possible. So thank you for doing that work. Now
You're welcome.
A, D. And oddly enough, we were, see, Councilmember Mink didn't know this, but we were talking about music before we started today. And my 18-year-old, who does play with the Blake Jazz Band and plays piano for them, also is a violinist. And plays with the orchestra at Blake as well, and symphonic band, but she's interested in psychology, which I know Director Stevenson and I have talked about, but she's very interested in the nexus between emotion, emotional response, emotional memory, and musicology. So thank you for doing what you're doing. It is important, and it does evoke a great many things for many people in different directions. And now we're all going to go look at the De Beers commercial. Yeah. And then when you mentioned Coldplay, I'm going, this is the whole Vitamin Strings Quartet phenomenon of the Bridgerton, fan base who are listening to pop songs being played as though they are antiquated, ready for the Gavotte type music, which is fun and cool on its own. So I wanted to ask questions because obviously the screening process is really important, as you mentioned. It's not all that different from our problem-solving courts in that you have to want to do it in order to participate in it, right? You cannot have it forced upon you. And the bottom bullet on that slide says must be able to be managed safely in the community. And one of the things that has long sort of plagued me in the whole landscape of the criminal justice world, particularly when you have more complex, as you've noted, complex cases with very challenging psychiatric profiles, we still have to release someone to the community when their sentence is up, period. Whether they're ready for training, whether they're ready to be back. What does ready mean, right? Whether you've managed to overcome a deep-seated belief in an ideology that has led you to commit violent acts, you still have to be released because your sentence is up. And we don't hold people for that. And yet, then what is the next phase? Because you are not going to be in those 4 walls, and you are going to be in the community, but you might not have demonstrated readiness for taking on other things, and also still need that deep therapeutic contact. So for those who can't go through this program, what are we doing there to help try to get the best possible outcome we can? Oh, sorry, you have to push the button. I forgot.
Told me 3 times. I'm sorry. The pre-release center is just one program element, which at its highest point in its history in corrections was 31% of everyone that came through our system went through. Now it's probably much less post-COVID, just because the sentencing's down, the courts are not back to normal.
Right.
Being it's just a program, reentry is going on from all perspectives, particularly MCCF. Our heaviest amount of programming is coming from MCCF, as it should, because that's a majority of our population.
Right.
which is 820 at MCCF approximately. With that, we're doing full-scale Montgomery College, GED, Choices for Change, CPT, youthful offender programs. We have 130 volunteers at our MCCF facility, and we're doing assertive case management with 24 case managers comparatively is to other state agencies, and our population's high too. The biggest part of reentry is always going to probably be at our main jail. Because not everyone's going to qualify, and when we have to make decisions of appropriate placement in that subjective role of managing safely in the community, as you mentioned, is we have to think of the other people that are trying to do good, and that therapeutic community can be derailed if you're not classifying it objectively and managing it correctly. And so it's really a slippery slope, but to the point, can we do more with empty beds? I think we need to run that out through a pilot project to see. We need to see. And measure that and look at it and what was the outcomes. And that's what we're planning to do in January. And see if, again, we have a 29-page risk need assessment application that then gets re-entered into a database system that then gets compiled to where Division Chief Ivan Downing will sit down with our reentry assessment screeners and say, okay, let's look at this case. And they have a regular meeting, because this is not, okay, you checked every box. This is sometimes discussion of what goes on, but because we don't want an incident out in the community. But to your point, you have to have reentry at both points of intersect. It can't be one. And if we as a team can make that bigger, we're going to plan to see what we can do.
And I wholeheartedly agree with your comment about crisis stabilization. Maybe that's not the right spot for that, because while I certainly appreciate economies of scale and all of that, it is its own niche thing, separate from. And I don't know that co-locating that there would be the best outcome for those who are there solely for that purpose, right? And I look forward to seeing what comes of the pilot in January, and how to be creative in how we do things. And I appreciate the recidivism study that GoCap is working on, and so I started thinking. I know that the data that the state has access to through the MLDS goes back to 2007, 2008. It does have corrections data, but it's from the state. And so it doesn't necessarily have a local corrections data, right? But you could add yours to that. And then because what they do have is ability to discern, let's say, for example, you want to study a particular cohort, whether they had, significant school disciplinary problems. Did they enter the workforce, or were they incarcerated? At what age were they incarcerated? Did they re-enter the workforce? Because it has UI data in it, and you're able to then see, okay, well, then they worked in this sector for this amount of time and stayed, or then added in and you saw they are now in a community college program too, or what have you, and it has all of that. So I think that would be fascinating to see. And you can control for multiple different variables with that in terms of, because nothing in this life is a one-to-one correlation. It just isn't, right? We're humans, everybody's complex. But I think that might give a deeper, richer understanding of things, so that then, when you're receiving someone who may have had a particular background, and I know, as you talked about, and you're evaluating the person. And that is one of the many things I appreciate about all of DOCR's operations. You are looking at people as people, and how to make the best decisions to assist that person to reach the best outcome possible. And I know you all firmly believe in the rehabilitation part of the jobs that you do, and that's a beautiful thing. And the other thing I wanted to ask about, sorry, I am flipping through my pages because I doodled on your slides. I know as we have a CJCC meeting this week, we will get another update again about the backlog at the circuit court on our criminal cases. So I know that'll be coming. They have been chipping away at it, but it is still present because more keep happening. And we're not catching a break to do the catching up. We're also still short a judge. So I know that is weighing heavily on everyone. If someone is in the program, in the pre-release program, and they're doing their program, and then they have a situation where they end up using, and you get them stabilized, and they come back to the program, do they have to start at 0 again, or do they start from where they left off? Or does it matter? Does it vary?
I don't know if it necessarily matters. We do a phase system because the evidence-based principle is sanctions for poor behavior, rewards for good behavior.
Right.
I think we've come a long way to where we're not sending people. We used to say we'd send them all the way back or hit the nuclear button, and then there was the movement of the halfway back.
Yeah.
We're not sending people back barbarically to where, relapse is part of recovery. People make mistakes. We're a program that's based on redemption, and so it really is not going to, certain things and how we address certain people, places, and things of where you may go or what you may do or the surveillance of how you do it might alter a little bit, but we're not going to treat you any different way. Because part of the clientele we're used to coming back. We work
right. Yeah, in my head, I'm going, all I could envision was the Chutes and Ladders game board where you went all the way back, right? And that's not what you want to have happen, but as opposed to it just being a do X, then Y is the outcome, that it is, again, back to the person-centered, hey, where did something go wrong? What can we do? Where are you going to need more supports? Where is it worth repeating on because this is the place where there's a sticking point? And so that's very helpful. And then all the different therapeutic type programs that are done as part of the pre-release center, they're not divided by gender, are they, or are they?
Some are.
Some are. Which ones are single gendered and which ones are mixed?
We have a women's group, which is separate. We can hold up to 14 women. Usually we average around 7 or 8. We run a group that's specific to women issues and reentry issues that pertain to the female population. Those are typically separate, but we are unique because most community corrections do not do co-ed.
Right.
Now, we have good security and watching, and we do a lot of orientation, make sure, when you come here, you're not to have relationships. But it is a co-ed environment.
Right.
And we've been able to manage that with really high success and not a lot of incidents that cause us heartache.
Yeah.
But that's the only one. Okay. All right.
Like the AA and NA are co-ed, right? Because they are in the community too. If you were a member, if you were attending AA meetings or NA meetings in the community, those are co-ed. And I know that the group I got to work with was a co-ed group, and they were quite the crew. They were a team. They functioned as a team. They supported one another. They wanted. Well, one, they made me taste everything they each made, but then they were making each other taste what they had made and get comments on, your frosting versus your frosting. And they each had their stories to share with me, which was really important to I think, have that outlet as well of just regular telling someone about who you are and where you're hoping to go. And I note that one of the women in particular happened to be, she loved Sweet Release. She loved the bakery training program, but she was talking about going to work with dogs. Yeah. So when I saw the slide today, I thought of her immediately because she was already in the process of interviewing and outreach on positions because she was going to be out very shortly. So wherever she is now, I hope it is with dogs because she was all excited about that and perfect for it. But I really do want to come back and work with folks again. I appreciate all that you do, and I look forward to continuing to partner on that work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Stevenson and the rest of the staff have answered most of the questions that I had listed as potential discussion questions on page 4. There's couple little follow-ups that I wanted to mention. The first question asked if there were any legal changes, and this might not be applicable due to much of the discussions we've had today, but since people aren't eligible for this program unless they have less than a year remaining, is there any benefit to getting that legislative change so that it's 18 months or less, which is what people typically spend at local community corrections? And the other one was, since it still is a care and custody institution or building, right, we are still making sure that people are healthy and supported while they're staying at the PRC. Are there any capital needs that they have identified to ensure health, welfare, and comfort, basically, of residents?
Two very good questions. Mr. Stevenson, do you?
I think I missed the first question on that. The first question?
So their eligibility now is for people who still have a year or less on their sentence. Would it be helpful at all if it were statutorily changed to be 18 months or less?
I'm not sure. We would have to analyze the data. I'm not sure, because our issue is the pretrial offenders in our jail are dominating because there's a backup in the court cases, right. And so I'm not sure it would necessarily equate to more people being able to come over. But we are looking at that there's a couple things that I wanted to mention to your questions too, which speak to this. Is we're going to evaluate our data to pilot someone to see if we have barriers and whether or not we're attuned. And so we've been ramping up our IT and our data as a department. IT Section Chief Janet Quirko is getting us in a position where we're making decisions based on data, not on, well, we believe this is the right thing to do. Well, prove it. So we do our formulas on that. Secondly, I want to also talk about risk assessments. Risk assessment needs to be revalidated every 5 years statutorily. We are in the process of that, and it's been a while since we've done one, over 5 years. The last time we did one, the recommendations were extraordinary, and they were ones that previous directors did not want to look down that lane at that point in time for a variety of probably legitimate reasons. But we are going to have an open eye when we go through this risk assessment process, because we do believe we may be making recommendations of release that could be otherwise supervised safely in the community. And so we want to see where that data goes. And based on our demographics, based on Montgomery County's demographics, based on who comes in charge. So those are all two things that we're going to be analyzing in January.
And when will the information be done? When will you actually know?
Well, we're in the final.
Assessment?
Well, we're in the final process of solidifying the contract. And then at that point, once we have the go, then it's going to take a while. I mean, it's providing data, and we're going to be able to do this to report it. So it has to be electronic. It has to be loaded up. So we're getting out of the paper business so we can do better data and be more responsive to trends.
Is a while a year? Is a while? What does a while mean?
Chief Morales, what do you believe on timeline for that?
The contract should be finalized within the next 6 weeks. Okay. And then due to the schedule that we need to implement it for the criminal procedures in the state, it should be about 18 months where we will start having data that we can operationalize into the assessment of pretrial residents and then the level of supervision as well. There's a lot of innovation, not just in the tool for assessment, but also for how we supervise these communities and populations after.
Okay. Well, I would suggest, as you're getting this, if you can, in 18 months, I'm not going to be here, but if you could give us additional information as you're doing it, whatever you could share, I think it would be helpful to us and to you all. And the second part was about the CIP, I think.
Yes, and the second question, we are working through DGS that's not coming out of the CIP. From what I'm being told is looking at the replacement of the windows of that facility. If you replace the windows of the facility, it's brand new. I'm talking from boiler to floors to kitchen to roof. I mean, we've done it all.
Yep.
But it's a 50-plus year old building. So, but other than that, I have no other larger capital suggestions that I would recommend for welfare.
You have something else?
I've noticed, and I think part of it is due to the complexity of the cases that are coming before the court right now. So in the pretrial, whether we hold or don't hold phase, when I have gone over and sat through those hearings, there have been more that are getting held due to complex backgrounds. These are not first-time offenders, and they have complex situations that lend themselves to being a significant danger to the community. And I don't know how we're going to get around that, to reduce that. Because some of those folks were people who might have been out on bond in another county and then came here, and then the next time around they got held. And so what percentage of right now is just the pretrial phase, not the trial to sentencing, but the pretrial, we're being held on bond, we can't be out in the community, and we have complex psychiatric needs that are challenging for your facility?
I would have to make sure I have that on.
You're good.
Yeah. I would have to get back to you
Okay.
on getting that data because we're on paper. And
Right.
part of our new contract in doing a new risk assessment was to build this out in IT form so we can have, dashboards. We can really look at this data and be able to make decisions. A couple things to think about, and I could get nerdy about risk assessments because I was a pretrial case manager for many years, is we have to look at we're making recommendations to the court, and sometimes that's a source of contention for public defenders.
Right.
And maybe as we look at this assessment, and you notice I didn't use the word risk, is
Right.
we don't imply that it's a dangerousness assessment. It's stability information for the courts to make an informed decision. And I don't know as we move into this next phase whether or not we should be in the position to making recommendations, but providing that information. And those are conversations we're thinking about. The other part is the risk. The risk, yes, it tells you whether someone will reoffend or not appear in court as your two indicators of success. However, are we doing a very complex probability review of dangerousness? We're not.
Right.
And so I want to make sure that we have a process and assessment that also has a review ability, because things change. As we know, when someone's sentenced, they may be hit with 10 different charges, and as you go through the funnel effect of the criminal justice system, it comes down to one charge. And so there may be some opportunities, unbeknownst to us at this point in time, that we can look at taking a second bite of that apple to possibly safely manage someone as their legal situation, and seriousness may change, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes, there's clearly some, I hate to say like, what's the score? Because that's not really, that's not about it's not a person-centered way of evaluating it. There are, in terms of objective criteria, where you can look and see, okay, but you have not been able to comply with prior conditions on your being able to stay in the community pending charges. Therefore, what alternative do we have right now? I do believe that is the court's province to make that conclusion, that it shouldn't necessarily be coming. It's just that it should be packaged so that the objective evaluation of the court can take place. And I'm hoping that you are, and I'm assuming you are talking with the Public Defender's Office about their concerns and what they would like to see, because I do think that that is important and helps inform the process. And overall, if you get, the State's Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office and ask the judiciary, where should we draw the line on what you want to receive, then everybody can walk away feeling like they've had input into this process so that the next iteration is doing what we need it to do.
Totally agree, and we are open to looking at this different. And I have appointments set up, which will be with the State's Attorney's Office as well as the Public Defender, as we kind of move in. I want to make sure this isn't inclusive. This isn't DOCR's project. This This has major impacts, and we've come a long way, as well. I'll tell you, is when I was a pretrial case manager in 2006 and did the first risk assessment ever that the whole state's using. We are the trailblazers of that risk assessment, for good and bad. we would look at, if you had a criminal rap sheet more than an inch thick, we weren't going to interview you because the judges weren't going to agree for your release anyways. And we've come a long way where we interview everybody. And you really have to be conscious of making sure you don't have bias in these. And
Right.
you look at interviewing everybody to get away from those type of biases, because everyone might have changed over years. As we know in the criminal justice system, the aging out process, the cognitive changes that go on with age, there's certain times people come back and they might have been a problem 10 years ago, but they're not a problem now. And so
Right,
those are
right.
those biases we really want to look at in our risk assessment tool as we go forward.
Yeah, all of those are very relevant to the total
Yeah.
picture. So thank you for that.
Okay, anything else? No, we're good. Thank you all very, very much for what you do. We appreciate it sincerely. Please get back with us with some of the information that you're going to get back with us on.
Yes.
And with that, we are adjourned.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you all. It's good seeing you.